Last year I went and I got, it's not like they were that fancy, but I went and I got, Costco had Junior's cheesecakes in from New York. The kind they send out. So, we had Junior's cheesecakes for Shavuos last year here, in our study, and it was good. I don't think we actually ate that much of it. I can't eat that much cheesecake, but that's me. It's a particular Jewish problem, I think. Well, I mean, other people are also lactose intolerant. It's not just us. We're not that special. Okay,
I'll
let's.
pick up the slack for you.
There you go. Great. Well, we have to have someone who can digest dairy. Okay. We are going to be in Kohelet, chapter 9, verse 1, as we pick up in our study of Kohelet. Uh, uh, we'll start, as we always do, with our blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshana b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. If you say amen, you get full credit. And then it's perfectly good.
I haven't learned my Hebrew yet.
And so we're gonna go ahead and start today here. So once again, we're gonna go and get. Sorry, my chapter went all the way back to 7, so you'll have to excuse me. The internet does do strange things to my text.
Technology is wonderful when it works.
Yes, exactly.
Very frustrating when it does.
So he's gonna go back to just like we're gonna talk about everything, the general condition of people, just how it is, and he present reality. So he said, for all this I noted, and I ascertained, or I took to heart, that the actions of even the righteous and the wise are determined by God, even love, even hate. Humankind knows none of these in advance. None. For the same fate is in store for all, for the righteous and for the wicked, for the good and pure, and for the impure, for the one who sacrifices and for one who does not, for one who is pleasing and for one who is displeasing, and for one who swears and for one who does not take oaths. Does not fear oaths, but really it means does not one who, or one who fears oaths, but what it means is one who knows not to do that, one who doesn't do oaths. That is the sad thing that goes about all that goes on under the sun, that the same fate is in store for all. Not only that, but people's hearts are full of sadness and their minds of madness while they live, and then to the dead. What do we got so far?
I have a question. What is free will in this? Is there none?
There is free will. I don't think any. It's a good question, but I don't think this is saying there's no free will. I think it's more we think of ourselves as smart, right? Certainly compared to all the other creatures on Earth, we must be. But what if the scale for intelligence, for really understanding reality, was 100 bars, and every ant and creature and whatever was 0.00001 bars, and we were 0.001 bars?
Okay.
It's not that there's no free will, it's just that we're stupid. We don't know things. We don't even know about our emotions. We don't even know when we're feeling them sometimes. And this isn't crazy. Shakespeare wrote like 15 plays about literally just this, I think.
Mm-hmm.
About people not being able to tell what their emotions were, and then they couldn't tell that love was hate or hate was love. I mean, this isn't a foreign concept, is all I mean to us. But I don't think he's saying that we can't make choices, just that I think I said everything I meant to say.
But choices obviously not made on a lot of understanding or chokmah.
Right. And in the case of, it does say here, are determined by God, or that that everyone is in the hand of God. The Yad Elohim, it says. But I interpret that less as like God is moving you like a chess piece on the board, and more like if you have a toddler, you have to like take that kid in hand because that kid is gonna make like burn itself all the time and get itself. You know what I mean? Like it's like God is there for you. God is with you on that journey. God is it's that version. It's that I interpret from reading it.
That's a much more comfortable way for me, rather than saying what I think Sam was hinting at, that God chooses whether I'm loving or hateful. I think that's up to me, my
Yeah, right. It's yours. We're just dumb. And so most of us don't choose. That's why we don't choose well, theoretically. If we were smarter, we would only choose what was good. If we were capable of getting anywhere close to God's understanding and God's morality, we wouldn't make the mistakes we make and we wouldn't be evil. Everything might be different, but it's not. And that's, I think, more what it's getting at than God controls you and makes you hateful or loving or successful or not successful. More, you are not capable of charting your own fate in a determinative, like where you can determine everything. And so something is left up to, we don't say fate, that's why it says Beyado Elohim. But really, when it says what does that mean? It means it's in God's hands, right? What do we say when we say it means it's not up to us, right? So that's what it means, is we can't, in other words, what it means more than God makes you hateful, which it doesn't mean, is that if you have chosen to be hateful, God is not going to just like fix you. It's actually an argument for free will and not against it.
Okay.
God is not going to just be like, okay, I'll just make you good because that's the right, like, you that's what you want. You're doing it. It's stupid and you're being bad, but like that's up to you. So
But you can use your agency to deal with it more creatively and not.
yes, you could be good instead. Yeah, you certainly could be. And it's your choice. You could change from being bad to good, theoretically. You can make teshuvah, and then he would say that's a very wise thing to do. Someone who makes teshuvah, I'm sure he would say that's a really good thing, and now they're a really good person. It's like they fix things. Better than being the kind of person where he keeps saying like better that you should not have lived because you get kept having changes to fix yourself and then you didn't do it.
I thought it meant that at a completely higher level, that like when my mother died, I remember feeling like I was I was a part of the human race because we can't control that. We cannot control dying. And it to me is saying the just, the unjust, the good, the bad, we all have the same fate, which is death.
Yes, and when we get to verse 3, yes, exactly. It certainly makes clear that
That's a very limited definition of fate, though. It's true. Death awaits all of us.
Right, exactly. Now, yes, go ahead. Sorry, you might be about to say what I was going to say.
I mean, if one has a different life than if one lives
True.
One second.
a hateful life.
Sure, Roger, one sec.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I understand it more as we can make choices, and our choices could be motivated by goodness or badness, but only God knows what the consequences of our choices will be. In other words, the road to hell can be paved with good intention.
Yes, absolutely. That's true. Right. It could be that something that everyone thought was good when you did it turned out we later thought hundreds of years later everybody thought was really bad, or vice versa. Indeed, indeed, it could be. In terms of this, right. I was going to say that the important thing, right, the same fate is in store for all in the sense of death. And I don't want to mitigate that at all. That's the only where I'm differing from Lauren, and I'm not sure it's a huge difference. I'm just saying I don't want to mitigate that statement. I want that statement to stand on its own. Everybody dies is all it says, and that's everyone has the same fate. Now, knowing that we have the same fate, it doesn't mean that it isn't virtuous to, again, I keep thinking of, when the fall is all that's left, it matters how a man falls down, um, which is Shakespeare, but still, the if we all know that the same fate awaits us, how much more praiseworthy is it for someone to do the right things when it won't save you from the same fate than if you'd done the easy bad thing? That becomes the tension, and so there's the tension obviously between, you've got this thing that dwells in every person, that we're all temporary, and what can we do with the time we have?
And while you're going to die, you have the choice of whether you live a life that's filled with love, you're giving love but receiving love, or whether a life that's filled with anger and hate.
Mhm.
True.
What the quality of your life is in your hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move down to verse 4 so we can continue talking about all this fun stuff. For one who is reckoned among the living has something to look forward to. Even a live dog is better than a dead lion, right? Even if you've got fewer advantages in size and greatness and whatnot, better to be alive than not. Since the living know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no more recompense, for even the memory of them has died. Again, there's a tension here. That's not going to be true of most people immediately upon their death, but it's like there was a guy. He lived in Salerno 2,000 years ago. Guess what? You don't know or care what his name was. Nobody knows him anymore. There was a guy. I know there was a guy. We don't know who he was. Nobody does. That's what that is. He's just gone. There's no record of him because it was a long time ago. He doesn't have any descendants that remember. That's just the way it goes. And whether it happened 20 years after his death or 1,000 years or 2,000 years after his death, it really makes no difference, Kohelet points out. It doesn't matter. It'll happen eventually to every single person, except maybe Kohelet. Except maybe a couple people, right? Right? But even think back, I mean, we go back, you remember some of the big conquerors, Napoleon, Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great. But outside of the Bible, how much further back can you even go? Even the greatest people of all of those times are forgotten. And what Kohelet would say is, 2,000 years from now, people will be like, oh, was there such a person as Alexander the Great? I don't know. It's too far. That's Kohelet's now. We're now testing the bounds of memory retention with our technological advancement as a society. One could argue that with more advanced artificial intelligence and ability to retain information, large amounts of information, it could be possible in some form in the future to transcend. Or for some version of you, people are already starting to do this. They can make holographic projection of you, and they can program it with an artificial intelligence that's trained on all of the things you wrote, and all of the speeches you gave, and all of the diary entries you plug into it. And then you can talk to it like it's you. Wow. Is that good? Bad? I don't know. But it certainly challenges in some 0.1% way Kohelet's statement here. Not for us, I don't think, in any meaningful way, but in 200 years, it becomes a question of, with robotics and, then it becomes a question, not for us again, but for future generations, there may be, someone may challenge Kohelet's a priori assumption.
I will challenge one of them right now. But the dead know nothing. I don't know that he has the wisdom to make that statement. We don't know what the dead know or don't know.
That's true. We haven't visited there, so it's hard to tell exactly what the dead know or don't know. But their inability to interact in any way he can perceive with the world takes them as he would. I think for what he means is that they're off the board.
Yeah, okay.
Right? The whole world is a stage. We keep using Shakespeare, or as David might say, a battlefield. And if you're dead, you're off the board. You're not impacting the world anymore. Perhaps and are watching. Maybe you've got a big lazy boy and popcorn, and you're watching the events of the world go by, and that would be very nice for people who want to do that. I actually think if there's an Olam Haba, a heaven of some kind, there'd be much more fun things to do than watching people suffer on Earth. But in any event, if that's what you wanted to do, then be happy with it. But yeah, I'm not. Anyway.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Were there any Jews at that time that believed there was some kind of existence after death?
I am not familiar really with exactly I'm not the person to ask. I haven't done any real reading on so much of afterlife mythology or afterlife eschatology. And
well, we have Saul talking to Samuel and Sheol.
Yeah.
So something is.
There's some belief that, but again, like they don't want to be resurrected. They don't like when he summons when they summon Samuel. He's upset about being disturbed.
But he was. I mean, he came to them at
theoretically. I think there are ways you could read that story, that Saul, in his madness and the witch's witchcraft, was duped into. I mean, if you wanted to, I'm not saying that's what the story intends. Only that I think you could read it if you wanted to. But in any event, yes, there's all kinds of interesting interactions with the world beyond the supernatural, so to say. But also the Torah is very clear that we're not supposed to try and engage with the supernatural. So I'm fully in the Maester conspiracy. I'm here to. Sorry, this is a deep Game of Thrones joke. You guys have no shot at getting. There's a thing in that series that the learned people of across the whole kingdom plotted for years to get rid of all the dragons and all the magic, because they were scientists and they wanted a world without magic and supernatural things, and that they plotted to make it happen. And what I mean is, I you could say that the Jews have been anti-supernatural for a long time, although we also played. So, as all peoples used to do, I think when the supernatural was much more popular, which for much of human existence it was, we had amulets and different magic, we have talismans. We put mezuzot up, which is not for the reason of that, but hard to make an argument that it's not some sort of, you literally place them as a sign on your doorposts. I don't know what else to call that exactly.
And saying Kaddish, aren't we in some
ways
trying to influence?
No, well, but even influence God, that's not supernatural. That's not. I don't think that's. I don't think that's the same. I wouldn't say that's the same category. I would say it's got to be something that's like woo-woo magic to be like that kind of, prayer is always, you're always like, I mean, but yeah, we pray, but all prayer is that.
I'm not saying Kaddish is magic. It does try to influence God, but aren't we trying to influence God to let people out of purgatory and into heaven, so to speak?
No,
No,
no.
I thought that no matter you do it for Kaddish.
I'm aware of that, but I'm aware of that tradition.
Okay.
But no, I think it's terrible. I think it's like some weird half Catholic thing. That's a terrible teaching. That we say Kaddish because to purify the soul, it has to go through some period up to a year
Yes.
of cleansing in some sort of voidless or some, again, people say some kind of purgatory only because purgatory is the word we have, not because it bears any resemblance to any purgatory you've ever heard of. I'm aware of the teaching, and that's why I'm teaching it now, so you know that I'm not just dismissing it out of hand. But I think it's really bad. I don't think that the soul requires that cleansing because we say every morning, Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorahi. The soul that you have placed within me, that we're not talking about from when I was born, we mean when it was returned to me this morning, is pure. We don't do original sin or any of that nonsense in Judaism. Sorry. We don't do any of that in Judaism. So the idea that we're so we sin every day, but we also atone every day, or we're supposed to, and we are returned our soul clean every day. There's a tension there, like there is in everything that Jews do. But I say that the idea that you have some stain that needs to be removed for up to a year, and that the only way that you can accelerate it by praying Kaddish for your loved ones sounds again to me like some kind of Catholic nonsense. I'm sorry. Right. That is nonsense. That is pure hokum. I really hate it. And any Jew who holds by it,
I'm delighted to hear you say that.
is like they just want that intercession, but they don't do it because of anything to do with God. It's for them. And so I don't go to people if they want to say, oh, I'm doing this because it'll, okay, maybe they watch this on the internet and they'll be like, this guy's a jerk. But like, you should say Kaddish anyway for your loved ones. That's not
And the reason we do it is to remember them lovingly? Is that what you would say? Is that why we say
the
Kaddish?
reason we say Kaddish for them is so that God, really we say it for us, but we say it so that we can honor their lives and their souls for an appropriate mourning amount of time.
I see.
The reflection period of the Kaddish is a very good one for the practical mourning of a person. And the only one that's not that practical, because honestly, for everyone on earth, basically, that you're very close to, for most people, it's nothing. There's no mandatory Kaddish period. If you're, for most people, it's a month is the length that are close to you. The only one that's longer than that is a parent, which is a year. 11 months, but 11 months plus Shloshim. So that's the only one that's a little less convenient in the sense of like you're trying to mourn and then you're trying to get back into the world. But even there, a parent is so impactful. I can tell you from my experience of mourning a parent that that having that year was absolutely necessary, and that a month would have been would have felt like I had not done anything.
Yeah.
And so, but but I didn't say Kaddish every day for a year for my father to buy him with brownie points into heaven out of some void. That's hokum. I hate it. I really do. Sorry if that makes me too sacrilegious for anyone.
What does Kaddish do then, in your opinion?
Why does it have to do something? It's honoring someone. It doesn't affect anything in the world. Nothing is affected. You are affected.
Right.
Honor is put into the world. That's
Last
it.
I looked, as we were in the world.
Right. That's what we're doing. It's just, but it does nothing for the world. It does nothing specifically for the world or for them in the after. I'm saying none of that. It's for you. It's to honor them, and it's mostly to help you work through the Jewish process of mourning, which helps take you from grief to a return to the world. That's the purpose of Jewish mourning. It is not to do anything post death specifically for
Is there
anyone.
anything in Judaism that says mourning can be a growth period for the mourner?
I would say that it often is. I would say even Ecclesiastes that we're reading has already said that, right? In the sense that this is again a alachat kama v'kama argument. This is a how much more so, kal v'chomer, some people would say, but I think it's more if this then how much more so that alachat kama v'kama that if it is good for a general wise person, if it helps one to go to the house of the mourner so that one can contemplate on the nature of life and what one's doing, how much more so would it help someone who is so, again, not help. I don't want to say that in a way that it's like good people, it's like it's never good. And in the same way, I think, yes, how much more growth and possible wisdom would one gain from the correct and open-hearted interaction with the grief process as laid out in Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. So I would say, yes, it probably does even more so, but again, in a really terrible way that you obviously like in such a way that like, it's like, you got all this stuff. And what did it cost you? Everything, it's like, it's not worth it probably to repeat the experience, but yes, I do believe growth comes out of adversity and also from this kind of adversity.
Well, an original sin and purgatory are such negatives, I've never believed in that, even in my own,
I say those things not meaning that like I don't know what Christians believe about these different things. Truly, I don't know. But for us, we don't have the original sin, and it's best to focus on this life.
Yeah.
So we'll turn now to verse 6. And again, we're talking about the dead. Their loves, their hates, their jealousies have long since perished, and they have no more share till the end of time and all that goes on under the sun. Right? This is what I was talking about before, right? And even the commentator says there's no trace of their history, exploits, and adventures in this world. Right? They did all these things, I'm sure, like we all do. Everybody does. Most people are not historical figures. Most of us are not going to be, in the annals of history. And that's all it means, right? So it says, so living people are superior to the dead because we have, we're players. We could always do something. We have potential, right? This is everyone loves potential. And living people have potential. So it says, go, lech, echol. So go, eat your bread in gladness and drink your wine in joy. For your action was long ago approved by God. Right? Let your clothes always be freshly washed, and your head never lack ointment. Enjoy happiness with a woman you love all the fleeting days of life that have been granted to you under the sun, all your fleeting days. For that alone is what you can get out of life and out of the means you acquire under the sun. Whatever it is in your power to do, do with all your might. For For there is no action, no reasoning, no learning, no wisdom in Sheol, where you are going.
What is Sheol?
Sheol is this.
If it's
Sheol is the underworld. Sheol is again, it's again, because again, the Greeks have their own version and the Christians have their own version. You have to throw out all versions of the afterlife. The underworld, Sheol, is again, it's like another version of the world, but like gray and void, not void, because like you're you, I guess, kind of. It's not really specific, but the intimation is that it's a place you go to work out
okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And,
Okay.
and from which you'll be liberated when the Messiah comes.
Right, yes, right.
Okay.
So we have I would say Judaism almost has a dual parallel eschatology
Mhm.
in which we have a you die and
Somewhere.
go to somewhere. It's either Sheol and you wait for the Messiah,
Yeah.
at which point you're resurrected,
Mhm.
or it's heaven and you're just happy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of both, and it's kind of one or the other. And I can't really tell you which it is, and we're not really sure. But we kind of have these are the two biggest versions of afterlife that
Mhm.
we see. And often, as you've seen here, they're kind of talked about sometimes almost as part of the same process and almost as if it's really hard to tell.
Mhm.
Um, but in this event, here they're going to translate it as in the grave, but it's again this idea that you're waiting there and then
Right.
you'll so yeah. But Sheol isn't specifically the grave; it's specifically a place.
Okay.
But it's not filled with myths of being tortured.
No, 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 no.
That's
no,
found in abundance in the Quran. It's grim. And Christians kind of took
A lot
that
about the
in,
Quran
and
is
that's why
grim.
Dante has such a
Agreed.
elaborate.
I think
punishment.
Catholics believe that too.
Oh, yeah, well,
Purgatory
yeah.
thing, yeah.
Dante brought it, but Dante, I think, took it from the Muslims, and it became doctrine within the Catholic Church.
It's funny because I thought it would have been the Muslims coming after the
Yes.
Catholics would have taken it from the Catholics.
Mhm.
But in any event, I'm not really sure. I don't know how they got to their
I don't know how
their
either group
afterlife situations, any of them. But and we're not we're very interested, but not all that certain.
Well,
Except about death, that we're pretty certain about. Yeah.
one of the great contradictions in that is that God will punish you for eternity because he's a loving God. Somehow that doesn't make any
I agree.
frigging sense at all.
It doesn't, I agree.
Let's look at verse 11. I have further observed under the sun that the race is not won by the swift, as one who runs fast is not always able to escape or apprehend what he pursues, nor the battle to the valiant. Now, this is right. This is this is a famous quote. Nor is bread won by the wise, nor wealth by the intelligent, nor favor by the learned. For the time of mischance comes to all. Mm, right, right. So battle to the valiant, right? Because the bigger side triumph in war isn't guaranteed. Um, right? Bread is not, nor is bread won by the wise. Being smart doesn't mean you're going to have a livelihood. Plenty of smart folks, right? Good Will Hunting. Everyone like that movie?
I love
You can
that.
be smart and still be and not be rich. It's possible. Right? Livelihoods are not guaranteed. And also not the wealth by the intelligent, right? Or the clever in this case to separate wise from in this case wealth to the clever, same thing. And also not those who are knowledgeable are not necessarily going to get favor. Uh, it says here, or grace. It says chaim. So so in other words, although wisdom and knowledge are generally beneficial, other people don't always appreciate wisdom and knowledge. Maybe they go against what they want to, maybe it goes against their interests, and so they don't like it. Maybe they're superstitious and they don't accept your conclusions. Maybe they, many different things could happen. So these are all talented people, the fastest and the strongest and the smartest and the cleverest, and none of them might have a good go of it, right? Mischance could come to any of them. The trials and tribulations of life are unpredictable, right? So verse 12, and human beings cannot even know their time, as fishes are enmeshed in a fatal net, and as birds are trapped in a snare, so humans are caught at the time of calamity, when it comes upon them without warning. Right? And we all know this instinctively, right? We've felt this before. When there is tragedy or loss or even just illness, everyone else is going about their day. It's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, it's Sunday, whatever it is. But your whole world has been upended. Could happen at any time, is all he's saying. We don't know. Right? No matter how prepared you are, you can make certain things easier with preparation, right? An ounce of prevention is worth, two of cure. But still, you still need something there. It's not a prevent, it doesn't work to, you still got to go through it. Yeah. And so, right. So now he's going to talk about something else. Does anyone want to talk about this section? It seems pretty, we might have gone through it, but does anyone want to, our short poem and okay. Sorry, excuse me.
Just that I remember, Rabbi, feeling this so concretely. I'm going back 20 years when Marie was on life support for 11 days. And I would run home from the ICU for an hour to shower, and I would see traffic and cars and everybody living their life. And I remember having that very thought, how can the world be going on as normal? My world is ending.
Right. I think that's very common, and everyone eventually feels that in one way or another, but who knows when it happens? For some people, it doesn't happen for longer. Verse 13. Now we're going to talk about a new thing. It's just another thing that he saw, and it's great wisdom for him to share about wisdom here for you. This thing too I observed under the sun about wisdom, and it affected me profoundly. There was a little city with few men in it, and to it came a great king who invested it. I don't know exactly who came against it. I think he besieged it and built mighty siege works against it. Yeah, it must be who surrounded it, not invested. That's a terrible surrounded it. It says visavev ota, which like misaviv for spinning atop. It means to go around, to be all around. Roger, you're going to say something?
I'm saying it means go around.
Yeah. Who surrounded it and built mighty siege works against it.
Yeah.
Present in the city was a poor wise man who might have saved it with his wisdom, but nobody thought of that poor man. So I observed, wisdom is better than valor, but the wisdom of the poor is scorned, and their words are not heeded. Words spoken softly by wise men are heeded sooner than those shouted by a lord in folly. Wisdom is more valuable than weapons of war, but a single error destroys much of value. Again, this is interesting because the commentator's translation is different. That it's not a single error, v'choteh echad, but rather a single sinner.
Oh,
That a sinner, so having wisdom is better than having good tools of war, weapons. But it doesn't guarantee the fate of the wise man, because a sinner who fails to recognize the benefit that the wise man provides destroys much good. Ya'abed tova harbeh. That destroys much good. It says here destroys much value. Really weird translations JPS chooses sometimes. Right. Right. Where wisdom is better than weapons of war, but it doesn't mean you'll have military success, because a single thing can throw it off. It's not it's not a guarantee. It's nothing like that.
Is there an implication that if things go bad, you may have had nothing to do with it? Because a lot of people say, "Oh, what did you do wrong?" Such and such.
Right. And also it's kind of the defense for the wise man, right? That you should, even if you listen to wise counsel like you're supposed to, there's still a chance that a single thing or a single trader or a single turnaround could cause you to fail, even though your wisdom was sound.
Getting back to Monday, did anybody use Ecclesiastes right around the war to say, "Hey, look, these people were not bad. Things happened."
What do you mean?
Well, the 5-year-old that gets murdered in Auschwitz.
And did they use Kohelet to what?
To say, "Hey, look, this can happen to anybody, and it's not their sin."
Oh, I don't think we generally believe you die for your sin, and we certainly don't believe martyrs die for their sins. People who the victims of the Holocaust died al kedushat Hashem. They theoretically died categorically for the sanctification of God's name. They are martyrs, therefore, and are not. Yeah, there's nobody's blaming them. Nobody was ever blaming them. There was never any. Again, we don't have a. Yeah. Nobody was. I don't think there was a theological blame for them, except from, to be fair, from Haredi communities. I'll be honest.
Really?
And they say that Reform Judaism and Jews not following the Torah is why the Holocaust happened.
Oh, really?
So they have a theological blame for the Jews for why it happened, but these are not every Haredi group. Also, they're just some, and the ones who probably won't say it to your face, but it's the same ones who won't come to our synagogue because they won't step foot in a Reform synagogue because it's worse than a church. They're a small part of our people and they're hateful, but yeah, there are Jews who have a theological blame for Jews, but that's really the only one I can think of where Jews blame Jews theologically for the Holocaust. Otherwise, it's all the German. I mean, 99.9% of us, or 99% of us, are on the same page that these people were martyrs.
I'm thinking of one of the main lessons of Job that very strongly, in my mind, supports Kohelet. Job did not suffer because of any of his wrongdoings, as his friends suggested. He was suffering because of God's bet with Satan up above that mankind knows nothing about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and they assumed he must have done something because it wouldn't be happening otherwise. And theoretically, that's normally the way it's supposed to work. But of course, we know Kohelet also says it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the bad get good and the good get bad, and we have to let the Odyssey deal with it
Mhm.
post life. We'll have to God will theoretically, that's for God to determine, I guess. Zivuveh. I love the word for fly in Hebrew. It's such a fun zvuv. Zvuv is the word for a fly, and it's wonderful. It's a great word. Mavet is not such a great word, and it comes right after it. But in this case, because it's smichut, and we're joining Mavet to zvuvim, it becomes zvuve Mavet, dead flies. Sorry, yeah, right. Mavet, not such a fun word, but zvuve is fun to say. Okay, now we'll get into the less fun parts. Okay, dead flies turn the perfumer's ointment fetid and putrid. So a little folly outweighs massive wisdom. What is that about? Right? Even though flies are small, and ointment is this, you got this whole thing of ointment, and it's expensive because it's, we're assuming perfumed oil is very expensive. It can ruin it. One dead fly in it can ruin the whole thing. Likewise, even if you've got a lot of wisdom on your side, a little bit of stupidity is going to overwhelm, right? It's kind of like the same principle we have about kashrut, where it's like if it's more than like 2 drops of milk in your stew is not kosher. It's dairy now, right? Right? If you got like 1 drop, maybe you'd be okay, but like more than 2 drops, no good. It's dairy now. You ruin the whole thing. It's not kosher. So anyway, I'm just it's kind of that principle with wisdom and stupidity. A little bit of it is going to outweigh wisdom. A sage's mind tends toward the right hand, a fool's towards the left. There you go. There's a political. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a political argument. Right, yeah, it goes towards his right, and the heart of a fool inclines to his left. But this is more just in the ancient world, right? We're being told that the phrase means a sage's mind brings good luck, a fool's brings bad luck. The mind of a fool is wanting also when traveling, which lets everybody know who is a fool. Right? Everything about him gives away that he's a fool when he travels, which will hurt him, probably, because people take advantage of people who do, that stuff. Don't want to disturb anybody. Okay. If the wrath of a lord flares up against you, don't give up your post. For when wrath abates, grave offenses are pardoned. This is like a fun, if you work for an overbearing king who likes to shoot off at the mouth, let's say. You can imagine anybody, I guess. And if this, it's like just stick it out. He'll calm down. He'll forget all about it, right? Right? Okay, he yelled at you in front of people.
This afternoon, we're going to destroy every hydroelectric dam.
Whatever the thing is.
We're going to extend the.
I just wish he'd do it. I wish he'd just do it, but whatever. But I feel like every time I'm just going to comment on Twitter, every time he writes one of those, I'm going to be like, you won't. Do it, you won't. Like,
Taco, dude.
Yes.
That's not what this is. Yeah, that's not what this is. He's just.
He tends to not follow Teddy Roosevelt. He doesn't speak softly and carry a big stick.
Well,
He
he doesn't
yells
follow
loud.
through either, which is the biggest problem,
Yeah,
but what can you do?
exactly.
Again, I don't get to pick any of this.
Then
Okay,
they're not calling you.
no, nobody's calling me for advice, that's for sure. Okay, so verse 5. Here is an evil. Yesh ra'a ra'iti. I saw this ra'iti tachat hashemesh. I saw under the sun. There's this evil I've seen. Under the sun, as great as an error committed by a ruler. One of the greatest evils in the world is the mistake of one in a position of power, because they have so much influence over other people's lives. If they make a mistake, it could negatively impact many, many people. Much more so than if a farmer is just like, oh, I'm gonna have chili for lunch, and his wife goes, you're allergic to I don't know. And it's like he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. Like, okay, that's dumb, but like that only affects him. Folly was placed on lofty heights, while the rich sat in low estate. The rich, not rich of money, but rich in spirit. I have seen slaves on horseback and nobles walking on the ground like slaves. Okay. One who digs a pit will fall into it. One who breaches a stone fence will be bitten by a snake. Right? Because there would be a snake hiding in like the divots in the stones. And so you'd knock over the stones and the snakes would be like, surprise snake. One who quarries stones will be hurt by them, and one who splits wood will be harmed by it. Right? In other words, it's never clear whether labor will yield a commensurate reward. Right? Sometimes you don't get, it doesn't always work out. Even though the hurt you get is definite. That's gonna happen because you gotta haul all those stones. But whether it'll work out the way you want. Nowadays, we're a little more sure, but even so, you hire a contractor, you don't know how it's gonna go. Any number of things could happen. It could not turn out good, you could run over, it could be, you get it. If the axe has become dull and the edge has not been whetted, then more strength must be exerted. Thus, the advantage of a skill depends on the exercise of prudence. No, that's not good. I don't like that. I don't like that translation. The advantage is in preparation with wisdom. Is in the fittingness of wisdom. So it's like having wisdom and advantage meet almost. This is where, wisdom and preparation, but really wisdom and the kind of preparation like you've been prepared, like you've been training, like you trained for this like moment kind of thing. And that's preparation. Hachsher, right? Chachma, bichon, hachsher, chachma.
You sharpened the axe first.
Right, you knew what you had to do. You had the right equipment. You had the right tools. You'd trained your upper body to be able to use the axe correctly instead of just showing up and being like, "Ooh, I'm weak, but I'm gonna try and swing it." Like you were ready.
Yeah.
You were prepared.
If you're gonna pull Mike call on a hospital, it's nice to be knowing something.
Right, exactly. So right, knowing this is GI Joe. Knowledge is right, and knowing is half the battle. What is it? GI something like that. I used to know.
Something.
GI Joe is like right. Knowledge is power or something. I don't know something.
The other one is plans and tactics work until the first shot is fired.
Yeah, well, right. He said earlier. He said planning doesn't always work, and one little bit of one sand in the gear can cause a lot of trouble. So right. And here's more magic, by the way. If the snake bites because no spell was uttered, no advantage is gained by the trained charmer, the Baal Halashon, which is usually a person who speaks evil. likening him to a serpent that bites. That's interesting. So this could be metaphorical. That it's not really anything about snake bites. And remember that there were all these snakes biting the people in the wilderness. God was pissed at them because they were being loudmouths. So he was like, snakes. And it had snakes, and so they had to put up to get rid of it and to heal the people. They had to put up like a snake staff to like there was this whole magic thing they did to get rid to get rid of the snakes, right, to get rid of the snakes. So we don't like to talk about that. That's a little too again, that's a little too woo-woo magic for us. The rabbinic Jews don't like too much of the woo-woo magic stuff, so we don't like to talk about that too much. But so too, you could say if this is about one who speaks badly, there is no recourse for gossip, is a way you could interpret this. Right? Gossip is like you're like a snake. You're like someone who commands snakes and has them bite people at will, like willy-nilly. Just for you're that irresponsible. It causes irreparable harm. Because there's no spell, there's no snake staff to to fix it in our world today. Sages' talk brings them favor, but fools' lips are their undoing. This seems like a pretty open and shut one. Everyone gets this one instinctively. People who are, it also says it's more the words on the mouth of a wise man are chain, are like grace. It's very interesting, but I think we basically get it, right? Fools, people will be like, "Oh, that guy's such a fool. We don't respect him." And sages will talk, and people will be like, "Oh man, that guy's really. We should listen to what he says." Their talk begins as silliness and ends as disastrous madness. Right? So at first you listen to him and it's like, oh, he's just being a little stupid. Like, but it gets worse. The more he thinks people are listening to him, the more extreme it gets to the point where it becomes full-on insanity. You see this today in most of the podcast class in America. People think people need to listen to them. Not this podcast. This is the best one. It's not really a podcast, but whatever this is the best one. But everyone else, pure madness. They just go down the road of madness. You see it. Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Candace Owens, they all went totally insane. Total insane people. Okay. Yet fools talk and talk. Boy, do they talk. Me too, but hopefully I'm not a fool. This is the thing, right? The fool will proliferate words. This is where Abraham Lincoln got it, by the way. This is essentially our version of better to stay silent and be thought a fool than speak and remove all doubt.
Yes.
What it means when it says this is that wise people might, not speak in order to, be like, I'm like 99% of the way there, but I'm not going to say it because I'm aware there's a part I might be missing. So better to say nothing about this. Wise people have that instinct. Fools do not. They will offer an opinion on everything. Wise people will offer an opinion on 99% of things. So here's the rub. How do you tell the wise from the fool? Find out if they ever say, I won't talk about that. Okay. That's basic. That's a good measure. That's one of the measures it could be. Humans cannot know what will happen. Who can tell them what the future holds? Right? The exertions of fools tire them out, for they don't know how to get to a town. Right? He doesn't have a plan. He didn't think about it, right? He didn't look up the bus schedule in advance. He didn't look at it. He just showed up at the end and said, I want a ticket.
No place of rescue.
And they say, okay, but it'll be 6 hours till the next bus. So now he's got to sit there. He can't do his work. He doesn't have it's like, this is the fool versus the smart person who plans. Alas for you, O land whose king is a lackey and whose ministers dine in the morning. right?
So much for a good breakfast.
You're right, yeah, and here it's actually Malkech Na'ar. So it's not king as a lackey, it's king is a young boy. A Na'ar is right, is a young boy.
Okay.
Yeah, they say boy, lad. Lad is just means young boy. Is Na'ar means is lad. It's just lad is, I don't know, Scottish or some nonsense. And Na'ar is Hebrew, but it means the same thing. So right, it's like you have this little boy king who doesn't know how to do anything, and just like shiny things. And the people who run the country are having leisurely long breakfasts and, indulging instead of focusing on the things what job there are. Happy are you, O land whose king is a Ben Horin. Is that right? We say every morning. What do we say in our Birchot HaShachar? In our Nasim B'chol Yom? Well, sorry, we say at the Reform movement, I should say. Anyone who's used to the traditional language is going to say, we say, Shelo Asani Eved, right? That didn't make me a slave.
Right.
But in the Reform version, we change that to Ben or Bat Horin. We say, Sha'asani Ben Horin, that made me free, a free man or woman, Ben Bat, depending. Right? In this case, they're saying, and here the Steinsaltz has the translation as free man. They say is a master, king is a master, but whose king is a free man, one who isn't unduly influenced, and whose ministers dine at the proper time, with restraint, not with guzzling, or without overly indulging with strong drink, without in drinking. So in other words, right, they're like, okay, like they get up, they have a granola bar, they have their coffee, they go to work, then later they have some food, right? Okay, so they have like an executive lunch, right? They had a steak, whatever. They can be ministers and stuff. That's not his problem. His problem is working for the people, right? In this case. So he's like, okay, it's great. They're doing good stuff. Through slothfulness, the ceiling sags. Through lazy hands, the house caves in.
Houses are often a metaphor for people's personality.
Yes, and their bodies too. Usually it's for their bodies. It's a good comparison. They make a banquet for revelry. Wine makes life merry, and money answers every need. But not just every need. It says, V'hakesef ya'aneh et hakol. Money is the answer
To
for
everything.
everything. Isn't that interesting? But he doesn't mean, of course, you've read enough of him now to know he doesn't mean money is the answer to life.
No.
All he means is that money provides an answer for everything. Money can get you over just about any hump, basically, any hump. If you have enough of it. If your house were to burn down to the nothing. Right, if you had enough money. What? We even read about the Shunammite woman who was like, the king said, hey, the prophet said, hey, there's going to be a famine. So she went and rented a house in Philistia for a couple years while there was a famine. Because she had enough money. It didn't matter. She could just leave. Go live somewhere else for a few years. Most people can't do that, but she could. So he's just saying that it provides an answer. And of course, wine, bread, feasting and wine, these things are good things. He's said before he thinks these are good things for you to be able to do. They're not inherently evil also. Money and wine and food, none of the, bread and wine, these are not bad things. In fact, they're some of the most basic good things in the world. Now, obviously, anything can turn, gluttony, he would say, is bad. So obviously, drinking too much and eating too much and, hoarding money for no purpose, he says very clearly, is bad. That's not what he's talking about here. So we shouldn't confuse them. Don't revile a king, even among your intimates, or even in your bedrooms, even in your rooms. Some say even in your thoughts. Don't revile someone who is rich, even in your bedchamber. For a bird of the air may carry the utterance, and a winged creature may report the word.
Gossip.
Right? What is it saying? Gossip. So what is it saying? Anything you say is likely to become public.
Which, by the way, is true with the internet.
Well, today it's never been more true, I would say. This is a little crazier. A bird of the air. How about a bird of Twitter might carry your? That's a little more. It's not a bird anymore, I guess. Now it's just a big X. But in any event, the point being, yes, that now even more so. So you should be careful regarding your words, and therefore you should also be careful regarding your thoughts. Because if you're careful with your thoughts, you won't have to worry as much about your words. If you're not careful with your thoughts, then you got to be very careful with your words. Because you don't want to do the wrong thing. Because again, what happens if you curse the king? King curses you. The king has power, soldiers, swords.
Well, don't you think when we have negative words in our head, it affects our being, even if it's about somebody else?
It's worse if we express.
Well, agreed, yeah.
I agree with you that I think even Kohelet would agree with you that in general it's probably better not to be obsessed about it's better not to be bad mouthing because it's not good for you. But I think this is it's like
This is about God.
right. This is really about right. This is about gossip. That that what you say is likely to be, you should treat what you say as likely to become public. That is the wise thing to do, he's saying. And I think most of us inherently understand that. Most of us have lived and done professions where we've had to have some level of discretion. And so, we see inherently that there's a need to marshal your thoughts so that you will, therefore, the words that come out will not be totally insane or unhinged. I actually think since October 7th, I've done a worse job of that with myself. But I used to think I think I did a pretty good job, but that was a couple of years ago. I think the whole world's gotten a little unhinged since October 7th. But before we tune off on YouTube, I do want to say for everyone on YouTube, whether you like it or not, Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach. We wish a happy 78th birthday to the state of Israel. May it last and be an enduring possession for the Jewish people forever. Leolam Va'ed. Thank you all for joining us for our study of Kohelet. We'll be back next Wednesday for more Kohelet. In a couple weeks, we'll already be moving into